You joined us for Rain of Blood, and together we made it rain bigger and better than we could have ever imagined. So now, join us for a second blazing inferno of knowledge and exploration. You're listening to Rain of Fire, the scorching sequel event to Rain of Blood, where we're going to delve into the world of fire play education and safety as we prepare for the upcoming Rain of Fire event. Join your host, Miss Kitten, Radically Dark, and Ember Solaris as we ignite your curiosity and stoke the flames of passion with discussions, interviews, and authentic insights from around the globe. Together, we're three flames united in one mission to make quality kink education more accessible and open pathways to conversation and connection about edgeplay topics around the world. But before we dive into these sizzling topics, a content warning. Rain of Fire discusses mature themes, explicit content, and practices related to BDSM and fireplay. So listener discretion is advised, and this is an adult-only podcast. Other topics may include mental health, trauma, consent, and more. So please be sure you're in a good spot to engage in these topics before continuing to listen. So, grab your fire gear, stoke the flames of curiosity, and let's embark on this crackling journey together. Welcome to Rain of Fire.
Hey, amazing fire starters, and welcome back to my dungeon. I have a really exciting topic that we haven't chatted much about on Rain of Fire, and I've really been looking forward to finding a human who will talk to me about this. So I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to introduce my amazing guest, Vanessa. Vanessa, welcome to my dungeon, and thank you so much for coming to chat to us tonight. We're really excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Vanessa, before I get into tonight's main topic, maybe you can just tell our listeners a little bit about Vanessa and what your journey looked like into kink from the very boring grey world of Muggle life to this really deep, dark, intricate world of BDSM. What were your first steps? And what's your kink journey been like?
Fantastic. Happy to share that. I have always been very adventurous and very much a hedonist, even before I knew what word that was. And just that I am pleasure seeking all the time. So whatever experience is going to bring me maximum pleasure through my senses of the best smells, the best sights, the best touch, the best taste, especially food. I'm a big taste person. I'll talk more about that with cigars because I do a lot with cigar pairings, and cigars are a calorie-free flavor experience that I enjoy very much. And just wanting to have
Wait. You have to do that line again. I think that's the best line I've ever heard. I think it's fantastic. Please just say that again. That was so fast that it stopped me in my tracks, and I need you to repeat it.
Absolutely. So a cigar is a fantastic calorie-free flavor experience. And that is something I love about it. You can have 4 cigars in a night, 0 calories are spent. And you just get to have a really good time, especially if you do like a progression. You can do it around a fire. You can do it around, unsweetened coffee, or you can have something else with it. But just finding calorie-free flavor experiences in life. Like I'll also do oxygen bars and I smoke hookah for same reasons. They're fantastic. Who wouldn't want that?
Absolutely love that. You just put the biggest smile on my face. I've never had a cigar myself, but it's definitely something that connects really well with fire as a kink. And there's a lot of tradition that goes into smoking a cigar and preparing a cigar to be smoked. And so tell me a little bit more about that and what that looks like.
Fantastic. So I had my first cigar when I was 18, because, you turn 18, you can now smoke tobacco. And I decided I wanted to try and be like really hardcore and have one that was like really dark and like extra, extra smoky. And I didn't enjoy it. So thankfully, the person that I was with told me, hey, this is supposed to be about enjoyment. And we're here to have a good time. Let's go find you a different cigar. You don't have to try and be impressive. And that was such a wonderful thing to hear. That's something I think all of us need to hear, especially when you're exploring a new kink or experience. You should do it because you have fun. We call it play. It should be fun.
I love that.
Unless you're into not Now, some people are into being like not enjoying a good time and just being used. That's a whole different thing, but that's not my thing.
I love that, and I love the reminder that this is an adventure and it's meant to be fun. That
Absolutely.
we've got to enjoy what we're doing. It's literally our fantasy, and unless you're, like you say, I mean, there are people that have these fantasies where they don't want to enjoy themselves, but I would say most of us want to have a pretty good time. And when we close our eyes, the fantasy looks like a pretty good time. So making that happen in person seems relatively important in the kink world. So I love that reminder. It was really cool.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I did have this vision in my head of me like getting super dressed up in a very like James Bond kind of like dress, or one of my like suits with a corset under it or something, and going out and having like a really fancy glass of something I could swirl around in my hand, and smoking my cigar so long that the ash was really, really big and didn't fall off because I was so cool. And none of that happened. I was just at a friend's house and was happened to be offered some. It was shortly after I turned 18. I'm like, you know what? I smoked hookah recently and I love that flavor experience. And I love seeing things through smoke. Just feels really cool to watch them all through. And also it made me feel a little bit like a dragon. And that's pretty badass to just get to exhale and see fiery smoke and ashes.
Love that.
So because I smoked hookah, and hookah is naturally very, or not naturally, it is made to be very sweet. I enjoyed that. The person I was with just offered me, hey, why don't we get you something that's a little sweeter? So I had a brand called Java, which is great for people who want something that's sweet and flavored. I like to think if you like your coffee to be flavored, then you probably want your cigar to be flavored. Also, coffee and cigars go great together. So I had a little vanilla flavored one. It was delicious. I loved it. And after that, I started experimenting with different flavors. I still to this day like a lighter side of cigars. The Monte Cristo White series is one of the most mild in the world. And I absolutely love it. It's my favorite. I buy them a box at a time. I have multiple in my humidor right now. And I will try other things that are like a little chocolatey, or I'll try something that's got different, like kind of earthy or leathery notes, or I'll try something to feel a little nostalgic and go back to a Java vanilla, because that was my first one and it will always hold a sweet little place in my heart.
I love that. You're dropping a whole lot of stuff and a whole lot of information. Like you've just given me like the whole cigar. You give me a whole lot of information all in one go. So they come in boxes. Can you buy them separately, or do you have to buy a box of cigars?
So you can buy them individually at smoke shops and cigar stores. A lot of places that are cigar bars will have at least one person on staff who has a lot of training in cigars, knowing about what time they were harvested, what area it's from, how that soil affects the tobacco leaves, what process it's rolled in. So if it's going to be a tight smoke that does get that really long ash that people like looking at, or if it's going to be something that's a little bit looser and maybe have more airflow. How long of an experience do you want to have smoking? Do you want something for 30 minutes with a cocktail, or do you want to be rocking a really long maximum length one? They're called the Churchills, for almost 2 hours. And they will talk to you about what your flavors that you like are, and be able to suggest maybe one or two for you to try. You can smell them even through the cellophane wrapper. There's a bit of a scent. I strongly recommend, if you don't know somebody who smokes cigars and like has a humidor that you can select individual ones from, go to a cigar bar during the daytime when they're not busy and just tell them, this is my first cigar. They'll probably ask you questions about things that you like in your food and your drinks. You know, when you have a cocktail, do you like it sweet? Do you like it strong? Are you a white or brown liquor person? Is there wines that you drink? When you have tea or coffee, do you add sweetener or cream? What are your favorite flavors? What kind of chocolate do you like? Because there is a lot of like chocolatey, leathery, oaty coffee kind of flavor options. And there's some that just taste like really, really sweet and delicious. There's one that's a snickerdoodle flavor that seriously tastes like creamy and cinnamony and reminds you of a snickerdoodle cookie.
I haven't. I've never experienced a snickerdoodle, but I'm seriously like I'm feeling like a poor cousin at this point because I don't think we have a cigar bar in our country. You're just giving me all the reasons to come and visit. It sounds amazing. It sounds like but all these choices and all these different experiences, and just being present to be able to savor that and to enjoy that is sounds absolutely amazing. You spoke about it, where the cigars are stored, and said if you don't know somebody who has one, rather go to a cigar bar. And you said you had one at home.
Yes, so I have a humidor. A humidor is just a box that maintains humidity on the inside. You put some distilled water inside, and it has a little measurer that shows you what the humidity levels are for when you need to treat it with some more water so that it stays increased so that it doesn't get dried out. Because if you smoke a cigar that's gotten really dry, it's gonna feel similar to inhaling campfire smoke from just wood and paper that's been burning.
Yeah, no, your
the moisture
snickerdoodle
makes it
story. Yeah, your snickerdoodle story sounded much nicer than the campfire cigar. So definitely, folks, follow this woman's instruction. I would definitely go for that. And how do you light it and prepare it, and what goes into smoking it?
So I'm gonna tell you the regular ways, and then I'm gonna tell you the sexy ways.
Yay!
So, oh, and another thing I wanted to mention about storing it, if you do buy a cigar and you don't have a humidor, you can ask them for a little humidity pack. And it looks like just a little ketchup size packet, and they'll put it inside of a Ziploc bag that's airtight. So you can have like 3 or 4 cigars at a time in those, and you don't need to buy the special box, and they usually give them to you for free.
Ah, great tip. Okay, cool.
So with finding a cigar, once you find the one that you like and you know about how much time you have to dedicate to it, I always recommend starting off a little small. That way, if you don't enjoy it, you're not stuck feeling like you have to finish it. Although if you don't like it, you don't have to finish it. There's no police who are going to make you finish it, or otherwise you go to jail. But you can get to, first you're going to have it cut, because the very bottom of it is either going to come to a fine point or it's going to come to a rounded sort of point. And we need to have some airflow in there so that when you breathe in to take it into your mouth, there's something for the air to flow through from the lighted side over to the side you're drawing from. There's 3 different kinds. There's a V cut, there's a punch cut, and there's a straight cut. A straight cut is the easiest to do. It is the most common that is done. The other ones have their own little perks and drawbacks, but I personally do a straight cut because I like to go on easy mode. And I cut a lot of mine myself. Sometimes the ones that come to a really fine point, it can be nice to do a V cut because then I actually get more surface area from the inside and I get to have a fuller mouthfeel. And the punch cut, I don't like at all personally because it draws a teeny tiny hole punch through the bottom. So it's a very fine draw. And I like to be able to inhale just real quick and not have to take quite as many seconds to pull in. But some people like to prolong their experience and do it. And there's no one correct way to do it. The way that you enjoy it the most is the right way for you to do it.
Wow, it sounds like a whole new world. There is so much to explore. I've got a whole list of notes. Okay, carry on. So now we've cut this beautiful cigar that we've carefully picked because we love the smell of it, and we're going to now enjoy the taste of it. So what happens next?
Okay, so next you're going to light it. You can light it with just regular old matches. You can light it with a high temperature butane torch. That's what I personally do. Some people don't like it because they say that they can taste the butane a little bit. I don't taste it. If I did, I probably wouldn't do it. But that's a really, really fast way because it makes a really strong, fast burn that only takes a few seconds. With matches, you're going to kind of have to have at least 2 matches in your fingers at the time and place it on the bottom about half an inch below where you are. I'm American. We do not use the metric system. I have no idea how many millimeters that is. I'd have to grab a ruler and look at the side that's in millimeters that I always ignore. But just like a little bit less than the width of your pinky finger usually.
Okay, cool.
So you'll hold it below and kind of draw in and then rotate it a little bit around so it lights on all sides. You want all the sides and the middle to have that kind of orangey, embery glow. That's how you know that it's good. And you're going to, if you're not using a butane torch and you're inhaling it, you actually have to, well, don't inhale. You draw it in your mouth. If you draw it all the way into your lungs, you're going to cough and you're going to feel really bad. If you do it too many times, you can actually get sick. So I don't recommend that. You just kind of draw it into the back of your mouth so you feel the smoke fill your mouth, and then you let it out. And just kind of, when you're lighting it, just do a quick little draw in, exhale, if you're doing matches. Some people go an extra step so that they don't get any of the thing that's on the, what's it called? Whatever makes
sulfur.
the light. Yeah,
sulfur.
that.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't get that or butane. They will light like a hemp wick, which is just a little tiny piece of hemp twine that has a little bit of wax on it, and then it has a more pure flavor
This
doing
is
it that way.
so serious. It's like tasting wine. It's really like you can really get to like levels that I never even imagined.
It is exactly like learning about wine. Absolutely.
Amazing. And you can you can actually taste the different tastes when you're breathing the smoke into your mouth, and they obviously have a different everything has a different feeling when it's in your mouth. I'm trying really hard to imagine. Do you know that tomorrow I'm going to find a cigar shop and I'm going to smoke a cigar? That is an hour of my life tomorrow I'm dedicating to this because it sounds absolutely amazing. Yeah. Okay, so once we have it alight and it's burnt evenly at the top, we have a smooth, complete the circumference, and the whole thing is glowing like a nice orange. What do we do next?
Okay, so next you can start to have the flavor experience where you just start to draw it into your mouth and feel it kind of fill right up your back molars and like the top of your throat and no further. And you can just kind of hold it in your mouth and feel that the smoke is gonna swirl around a little bit, and then you exhale. Some people learn how to make smoke rings. I am not quite that cool or talented when it comes to that. And you just let out an exhale. I like to make my mouth have a teeny tiny little small opening and then exhale super fast so that it looks like I'm blowing a big poof. Again, I want to feel like a dragon.
I love that. A friend of mine has a dragon mask, the most beautiful handmade leather mask, and she smokes a vape pen, and she breathes out with the dragon mask on, and the smoke comes out her nose. So when you talk about breathing out like a dragon, like I can just picture her with the dragon mask with a cigar. I think it would make her life. So I've definitely added that to a Christmas list for this year.
Yes. Hey, we need more women who smoke cigars. I know it's like a very masculine pastime, supposedly, but
it's not,
I feel
though. The way you've described it, like I have the perfect pair of boots and a really nice, like a little linen skirt with a leather jacket. That would just be absolutely amazing. And it's winter now, so I can even tell you which scarf I would wear to do this tomorrow. It's amazing. It just makes
I hope you send me pictures and messages about it afterwards. I really want to
100%. It just makes the whole experience like it just makes it like it makes it like an adventure. Like it's so exciting. Like it's definitely like a whole planned adventure. I absolutely love it. And this goes on to so is there a secret to ashing the cigar? Do you do it in a certain way? Is there a right way, a wrong way to do it?
So there is. So you don't want to ash too soon, because then some of the ashes will kind of like get stuck in the embers and it will taste ashy instead of smoky. So usually you want it at least the width of your thumb before you try an ash. Some people wait and just let it fall naturally. I did that once and got a small burn on my boob and did not enjoy that experience, so I don't do it anymore. I know our listeners can't see me, but I have very large boobs and I like them a lot. I do not want them to get burned. They can get set on fire, which is a different thing, but no burning.
I tattooed mine accidentally when I did needles over paint, which was not my brightest experience ever. So I have these 3 blue lines on each boob, which is as much damage as I've planned to get on them for the rest of my life. So I'm also quite protective about them.
Yeah.
I hear you. Great tip for a woman learning to smoke a cigar.
Absolutely. If you do go to a cigar bar, they have awesome cigar-based ashtrays that have the width of like a fat cigar cut out in a little semicircle on the edges, so that when you're in between your draws to have a drink or, take some breath to have your conversation, whatever you're doing. Most people are not constantly doing draw, exhale, draw, exhale. You're going to be enjoying whatever else you're doing, probably having some good conversation, a cup of coffee or a cocktail or some scotch. So a lot of times when you rest it down, when it's ready, it will kind of just fall off. But if you see it and it sees like it starts to have a little bit of bend or it gets bright white, you can just do a quick little single tap and it'll fall right off. And if it doesn't fall right off, do not push it. It is not ready. It will fall off very easily when it's ready with just a single gentle little tap. And then if any of that white ash does get inside, you can do a very quick draw to pull your cigar up to your mouth, do a very, very quick little like half a second exhale, just go, and any of it will kind of come out, and then you can go back to smoking regularly. You can also, if it starts to burn a little hotter on one side than the other, and you see that the ash is getting uneven, you can either dip your finger in a little bit of water, or you could cheat and do what I do and just lick your finger, and the part that's going down, you just put a little bit on there and kind of make a little moisture barrier so that it has to slow down and it'll burn more evenly. And if you're in a excellent conversation or, drinking experience or whatever, and you let it go completely out, you are going to want to tap all of the ash off that you can, because it's not going to be that, pretty little fall. And you're just going to tap. You're not going to smudge. You do not smudge and like press it out to stomp it out like you would a cigarette. You're going to want it to just tap, because once you smash it all, it's no good anymore unless you cut that whole tip off, and that's probably a good chunk of your cigar. You can just relight it the same way that you lit it originally. Most cigar bars will either have a butane torch or matches. Most have both. Actually, all of the ones I've been to have both, but I don't know what your part of the world does.
Yeah, we don't have cigar bars. Feel sorry for us orphans. We don't have any cigar bars. I'm feeling very
like liquor stores at all?
We do have like little like smoking shops at some of the really fancy malls. So I have one in mind. They have a little glass room at the back, which I've never been into, which I'm going to explore tomorrow. Like I have that booked on my list.
And you will notice when you go in that it is more humid there than in the rest of the rooms. That is their humidor room. That's why it's all encased in glass. It has set to its own stable temperature and humidity level. So that it keeps the cigars from drying out.
I don't want to seem like a complete novice, but I am. So, without seeming like a complete fool when I walk into this room tomorrow, what am I asking the guy for? So, from what I've taken from what you said, I need to find something, because I don't think I'm going to enjoy the very heavy stuff. I think I need something that's light to start, and maybe something with a slightly sweeter flavor, not too sweet, but just that it's got a little bit of a flavor in it. If I give him those instructions, will he be able to guide me a little bit with choices?
He should be able to guide you. Most likely, he's going to suggest either a flavored cigar or we call them claros, because they're very light in color. And maybe ask you if you want something that's more creamy, something that tastes a little like coffee, something that's got a little bit of I'm trying to think of what I'd like. Leathery. You probably wouldn't like leathery though if you want it more soft. But like you can find a creamy, like hints of nuts even cigar. Or if you want a flavored cigars, like I said, my first one was vanilla flavored from the brand Java, and it took me about 20 minutes, maybe 25, to smoke through it, and I had a great little experience with it.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to go for something that is light and that I'm going to enjoy, and I'm going to buy something that's heavier just so that I can just tell the difference, and share it with a friend this weekend. I'm really planning my. There's nothing better than buying your first cigar and planning a second cigar at the same time.
I love this for you.
Yeah, I'm always in it to win it. Like I really believe in trying things 3 times before you make up your mind anyway. The only thing I haven't tried.
Same way. And that's a thing with wine and with cigars that people taste. Your first one, is to taste. Your second is to acclimate. Your third is to judge.
Okay, that's really clever. Yeah, I've tried most of the things people have mentioned on this podcast. The only thing I didn't try was eating glass. That was the only thing I listened to intently, but have decided that it's not in my risk profile.
What was
but this eating glass.
Yep, nope. I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, the human's incredible. I can't believe that she can do that and that she does it safely and that she has the skill. And I hugely admire it. I did do a whole deep dive into eating glass on YouTube for 24 hours after the podcast because I was just amazed that people can do that. And it's a thing, and it's definitely a thing that needs more skill. And doesn't sound as safe as buying a cigar and smoking it. So
I would agree with that.
yeah, I'm going to pick the cigar as this week's activity. I think it's a great way to use fire in my life to give myself a new experience. So I absolutely love this. I'm very excited. I'm smiling from ear to ear. You have this radiant joy that you transfer when you talk about these cigars. It's fantastic. It's
I really love them. I smoke. The two forms of tobacco I smoke is cigars and hookahs, and I smoke probably 5 nights a week.
Okay.
If I go a whole week without, I probably have a cold or the flu or have family visiting who has asthma or something.
Top tip, don't smoke near mum who has asthma. Okay, we've got that as well. So fire is also part of your life in other ways. Do you want to chat to me a little bit about how fire connects with you in other ways in kink?
Absolutely. One more thing I will say about cigars is that the more you smoke down a cigar, the flavor does get more complex, but it gets harsher because it's hotter. So we generally recommend when you get to the ring, and the ring is the piece that's wrapped around that shows you the brand, and often the flavor in their little logo. When you get down to the ring, most of us, just for good decorum, do not smoke down below that. Some people like to smoke the entire thing. That's cool. But if you're above the ring and it gets too harsh, you can stop.
Okay, and how do I put it? How do I put it out so that I look elegant and I don't look like a complete muggle?
So it's very, very easy. You just do a tap, tap, tap to get most of the ash off. And then in the ashtray, you're going to go from one side to the other. You're going to just press it fully down and just do a quick little swipe from one side to the other. And it's going to get all that ash and embers out. And you put it in the middle. And whoever empties the ashtray will go ahead and do it. Some people will compost them too because it is compostable.
Okay, cool. I have a compost garden, so that can go in my compost garden. Love that. I'm definitely sending you pictures, and I can't wait to experience it.
And then there is a sexy thing that some people do where they'll kind of moisten the outside. But basically, it looks like they're giving it a blowjob, and they'll moisten the outside with their lips as long as they're not super, super done. I don't like that it's a little bit soggy after that, but some people do. It just burns a little bit slower at first. But that's a little sexy way to prep it and then hand it over and light it.
So they take the cigar that's obviously unlit and they put this end in that they're going to light, they put into their mouth and they do a really sexy little blowjobby thingy, and then they hand it over to who's ever going to smoke it like they've prepped it for lighting.
Absolutely. And often you'll want the person giving cigar service to do the lighting while you just do your quick little inhales. And that's it's a nice little moment. And sometimes they'll want to be an ashtray too. And you can tap the ash out on them. And if you're wearing sexy boots and you want to stomp it in and carve your initials with your finger afterwards, I mean, that's super fun too.
Tell me more about the ashtray thing.
Okay. So some people will eat ash. If someone's really, really into it, I'm always a little weirded out personally because I'm but it's ashes. No, but it's completely safe. It doesn't burn their tongue or anything. Unless you're putting it out on their tongue, which I do not recommend. Please do not do that. But they'll do it and they will eat the ash. It is safe. It's just burnt tobacco. So they'll like to do that and they'll like to pose. Sometimes they'll want to, if a girl's got really big tits or if someone's got a really nice butt, they'll go ahead and kind of present it and be on standby, almost like human furniture. Maybe they'll wiggle and jiggle to tease if you're into that. You can tell them what you prefer, and you can put the ash out on their body and decide if you want to just kind of let it fall and let gravity do its job in between all the lovely creases and curves of their body, or if you want to do the thing I like to do, where you take your boots and you stomp it all in and make a bit of a mess, and then I will carve a nice V for Vanessa with my finger, and just kind of mark it in the middle. And
Vanessa, I feel like you're changing my life here, one cigar at a time. My brain has gone on to like overload.
Well, if you have a sexy person who wants to be useful for service or human furniture, now you know you can do that. And it's a pretty beginner-friendly thing to do, too.
Oh, that's absolutely divine. And I mean, you could start somewhere that wasn't hugely personal, or they could just hold their hands out or something to begin, and then once you got used to it, you could make them do. Yeah, my brain's already making this book. I do a million things for me.
And sometimes they will hold a literal ashtray in their hands, and they're basically the ashtray holder as their little active service human furniture type deal. And it's whatever makes you both happy and you're both really comfortable with, that's the right way to do it.
Absolutely love that. That's such a beautiful spin on it. I have a latex pony. He has a job for tomorrow. He just doesn't know it yet.
Latex is another love of mine. They do not mix with cigars very well. Obviously, you do not want heat and embers to fall on latex.
No, and the latex and fire are definitely two kinks that, I mean, you can mix fire with a lot of things, but latex and fire are definitely not two kinks. But the pony can wear his pony harness without wearing his latex, and he looks super hot when he does that too. So, I can work around this. I can definitely problem solve this. I'm not seeing it as an obstacle. Definitely think that there are solutions to all of this. As long
okay,
as
sounds like I need photos of most of your life. Okay, cool.
I definitely think the boots are still a win for me. He could even wear the boots and his pony little harness and be an ashtray. That would also work my brain. My brain's literally on fire, and my grin's gone from like it's now plastered across my face. I definitely think tomorrow.
I mean, that sounds really sexy and like something you'd have a lot of fun doing.
I've got a pair of pleasers that I've got like 9-inch heels and platforms, and they're super tall, and my pony is like a super short. So he's my height when he wears my pleasers, and on me they come just above my knees, but on him they come all the way up to his thighs, and he just looks fucking adorable in them. He looks absolutely gorgeous, and it's just so cute. So that just that as a cigar service would be amazing.
Fantastic, yeah. And if you bring him with you to a cigar bar, where they can give you like a little help lighting, or if you just want to watch a YouTube tutorial on how to light a cigar, there are so many great YouTube tutorials. They're usually like less than 5 minutes long, and they'll show you, here's how you cut it, here's how you do it. If you're buying from a place that is not going to cut it for you and like light it, because you're not going to do it right there, because it sounds like you don't really have cigar bars, just ask them to get a little cutter. They look like little guillotines that you can hold in between your fingers. And when you watch your little YouTube tutorial, it'll show you that you place it a little bit up, just enough to get some airflow. And you take your fingers and you just do a quick snap. You want it very quick so it gets sharp and straight. If you go too slow, it can fray the ends a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can teach your lovely little pony boy how to do this. So that in the future, when you continue experimenting with the awesome flavored cigars, he can just prep it for you.
Oh, when the girls come, they can enjoy a cigar served by the pony. I'm loving all of this. It's fitting into my life just perfectly. Fire has definitely been a kink that has changed my life. It's turned my garage into a very exciting place to go. And now I have something that I can bring fire into the lounge. Because otherwise I don't think you can bring fire into the lounge really. So this is a lovely way to bring fire elegantly into the lounge with still having a house by the end of the session. Oh no, that's absolutely divine. It's so beautiful, and when you describe it, there's so much tradition in what you're saying and so much elegance in the service. It's just really lovely. Definitely something that I'm going to give my best effort to a couple of times.
I really hope you have a good time. Definitely tell me about it. And if you get a flavored one and a non-flavored one, but like one of those really more pale colors, and if it smells like the kind of, nutty or coffee or earthy or whatever the smell is that makes you happy when you smell it, and that's a little bit lighter, get like one of those and a flavored one, and you can kind of compare and see how you like it.
I think you have to compare, and I think it's a bit like wine. You have to have a couple of different. You have to have a couple of different ones. You also got to do it a couple of times so that you're relaxed doing it, and that you are you're not so focused on the actual action of smoking the cigar. You're able to be present and enjoy the. See, I have this way too planned out. I've already got at least 2 cigar sessions in 1 week. So, it sounds beautiful. Do they do this a lot? Is this something that happens at kink events or?
So it's something that happens a lot in kink events that have a lot of older men, because it's kind of their pastime. I like being the young woman in the room, in a room full of older guys. The very first cigar club I was ever part of, I was the only woman. Now there's more women getting into it. More femdoms are using it to get really empowered. And I love it. I'm here for this trend. But Florida being a very retirement state where a lot of people come to enjoy their older years because it's nice, warm weather a lot. There's a lot of beaches. The sea's not too big. There's a lot of cruises that come out of places. We got great theme parks. People will usually do it at kink events like Beyond Leather, Florida Power Exchange, even the Dungeon here, which is the Woodshed Orlando. They have a place for cigars out back with actual cigar ashtrays. They have a bunch of space in between the benches that people sit on. The benches have nice backs and arms to them, and people go out there and smoke cigars almost every single Saturday night. I've gone out there with a couple of cigars multiple times. I bring my own torch. Also, my torch looks like a dragon. I have a thing for dragons. But like I'll bring my own torch and stuff and go out there, and I'll have a couple extras in one of those little portable bags that has the little humidity pack, and see if someone else wants to. Sometimes someone will like have their own little kneeling cushion or kneeling bench and just kind of get on their knees and get to be a footrest or be an ashtray, and that's super fun too. But I have been to a lot of events that have like a cigar hour, that have cigar service classes, and just regular clubs where there's an area for smoking outside, and they'll have a separate area for cigars versus cigarettes and vapes.
Oh wow! I think you need to have a separate area because it almost sounds like the experience is takes longer, and that you are preparing for the hour or the 30 minutes that you're spending. You're present with the item you're smoking, unlike with a cigarette where you're whipping it out just to get the nicotine in the shortest amount of time possible and then carry on with the social side. So it actually, the cigar sounds like an event to me, something that you plan for, something that you are you're sectioning a section of time off so that you're present and you're enjoying the moment. I think that's what I like most about listening to you talk, because it really just sounds like you spend time enjoying the moment, doing the thing, which we do very rarely in today's lifestyle. So I really like anything that gives you that opportunity.
I completely agree. It's something I love about sensation play and sensory experiences in general, which does bring us to the question you asked before I went off on the sexy side.
No, I'm so glad you went off on the tangent, because I have learned so much more, and I'm just smiling even more. So I'm very happy with that. But yes, tell me about the sensory side and about
so the sensory side of temperature play, and specifically fire, is definitely a good fit for people who like to feel a dramatic sensation on their skin. If someone is extremely sensitive and doesn't like to feel very hot or cold and has a hard time adjusting to it in their everyday life, they're probably not going to enjoy it. But there's multiple ways to do temperature play. Ice is pretty straightforward, because you either use ice or you put objects in the freezer, usually metal ones, that you can then like drag around somebody's skin and play with them on. Some people will even insert like a frozen chain, which if that's your thing, cool. And then you can do that juxtaposed with nice temperature play. So you can have alternating ice and hot wax or fire blowing. And hot wax is a nice, easy one to get into because paraffin wax has a really low burning point. So it's a little bit hotter than hot tub water by like less than 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's, again, I am American. I do not know the metric system.
It's okay. I'm still embarrassed to admit that our rulers don't have any inches on them at all. We have millimeters and centimeters. So I just wanted to say earlier when you said you'll check on your ruler, I was like, meh, my ruler won't have. I don't think I've ever seen an inch ruler. I'm having a big.
I mean, we're one of 2 countries in the world that still uses the system, so it's
you know, and the international American systems are renowned.
True. But yeah, so because it gets like a little bit hotter than a hot tub, it's very easy, like user friendly. They even sell little paraffin wax baths at like some big box stores and some like holistic health stores, because people with joint issues, it's a nice way to coat their hands in the heat that is really healing and therapeutic for joint and nerve pain. And they'll be able to do a hand wax bath or a foot wax bath. Some pedicure places and manicurists will do the same thing too, where they'll do, it's always paraffin wax. It's heated up just enough so it melts, and they just put it in like little bags on your hands and kind of massage you through it. That's a really fun way to just play with a little bit of warmth. You can also get a paraffin candle and set the candle on fire, either inside of like a jar or in a pillar candle. Fun fact, paraffin is really, really cheap because it burns quickly, because it has a low temperature that it burns at. So it's going to melt faster than something that burns at a higher temperature because the flame is a constant temperature. And as it melts, you can just kind of tilt it off to the side and drizzle little wax strips. You're going to want to start further away from someone's body than closer because the air is going to cool it down a little bit and see how they adjust. My first foray into playing with wax and fire was just by myself. I was at a guy's house and I wasn't really into the dude, and there was candles everywhere. And I was like, you know what? I just want to have some fun because you're not very fun. So I picked up these 2 candles on tapers and just kind of like rolled them down my boobs so that the flame, like the very tips of the flame just went on either side of my nipple. And I'm like, oh, this is really fun. I don't recommend you casually do that without knowing what the wax is. I was young and stupid when I did that and got very lucky that it wasn't a high temperature. But I just like the feeling of having a little bit of flames getting close. I like the feeling of feeling the wax kind of start melting on my fingers. And I started going to dungeons very, very quickly. Like in high school, I learned what they were. And I was like, okay, so the second I move out, I need to go to one of these places. And I was like, I want to play with wax. And I had an amazing play partner for a few years who I still play with, but we live in different states right now. So it's less often, where we got a wax bath that we could get to the exact melting point temperature. And we also got candles of various sizes and shapes that were made out of the paraffin. And we had a ton of fun doing photo shoots, doing cool stuff with wax, of placing candles on me and letting them burn. Once I had candles placed all over me and I got tickled so that when I laughed, the
wax spilled
over. I don't like being tickled very much, but that was kind of a funny predicament that lasted a few minutes. So like we've done that. And then when it comes to like, if you like that sensation, but you want something a little more intense, you can play with fire. The way I recommend starting to play with fire is fire blowing. And it's exactly what it sounds like, where you just have something that is on fire, whether it's a candle, or most people will put some cotton that is dipped in 70% or 71% isopropyl alcohol. And they'll put it on, I forget the name of it, but like the medical thingies that clamp together. They look like scissors, the tips of them flip together.
Yeah, like a little pair of tongs, to hold it or something like that.
And they'll wrap the They'll wrap the cotton on there. Some people will just put cotton balls on top of a skewer that they use for marshmallows, which I think is kind of funny because it looks like a marshmallow, but it's a cotton ball, and then you set it on fire. And then just have it near someone's skin, like, I don't know, like 6 inches away, which is about double the width of the average woman's hand. And just be able to have it nearby and get close enough to it that when you blow on it with your mouth, it just, I mean, you're not touching your lips to it. You're like a little bit away, but you can start to just exhale and blow, and you'll see the flame flicker and get long. You do want a very, very hot flame, which is why you want to light alcohol on fire.
How much heat do you feel from that? What is the sensation like?
It's really nice. It's kind of like walking into a sauna for a second, coming from really cold air conditioning into a very hot sauna. Except it's concentrated to just the one part of your skin that you feel it on. I think it's really fun. I mostly do it as a warm-up for fire strips and fire cupping. I will tell you a little bit about what those are.
Yes,
and
please.
Fire blowing, some people, when they do fire play, they just want to have the flames get blown around close to their skin and warm it up a little bit. And that is the activity for them. And that is definitely the easiest and like most user-friendly way to do it. And if that feels like enough, you do not have to keep going to the harder and more complicated and more dangerous stuff. I know I've said that about some other things, but seriously, you don't go to jail if you don't keep going to the hard place.
Yeah, and it's got to be fun. And I think the other thing that I've learned from fire that I always want to leave my listeners with is the fact that it can be quite overwhelming in the beginning. Like the whole idea of fire was, we've been told since we were tiny that fire is not safe, that we must be careful, that we must avoid it, that, so we have this already. We have a complete bias against it as an element. So for the first couple of times you play with it, it can be, your body can go into a little bit of shutdown, and your reflexes and your reactions aren't great about problem solving when you're in the situation. So just getting used to it and playing with it in ways that make you feel comfortable and make you feel safe are super important. Like, it doesn't have to be awe-inspiring and dramatic when you play with it the first couple of times. In fact, when I started this whole journey with fire, I had the world's tiniest wands. My fire top, the guy that I work with, was saying to me, like, I look ridiculous. They look like earbuds. And I was like, I don't care. I feel safe with my earbuds. And I love my earbuds, and I can do everything with my earbuds that needs to happen. And I can have all these experiences that everybody else can have with their big stuff. And I feel completely that I'm completely able to control. If something goes wrong, I can react. It's not overwhelming. I'm not feeling like I disassociate from the sensation, and the risk is lower with what I'm playing with. And that took a while, and it was a long experience for me. It wasn't fast, and I didn't feel any pressure to go bigger until I felt more comfortable with the kink and with the medium, and I understood the medium a little bit, and my process had got better with the medium, and I trusted myself a bit more with the process. So I love that you keep saying that people don't have to rush, because there is no rush in this, and it has to be fun. And if you go too big too fast, it's not fun.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll go and you'll do something that's a little more intense and go, oh, I don't like that. And then you just go back to the first way. And you're like, 100%. Okay, I tried it. I didn't like it. I'm going to go backwards. I think it's kind of like eating spicy food. If you really like spicy food at a certain spice level, and then you go too hot with your spices, you're like, oh, that's too much. I'm going to go back to medium. I'm not into hot. Or like, I like hot sauce. I don't like fire sauce. Which is funny because we talk about the temperature of spice, but it's still temperature. And there's some stuff that people will do that they find it very intense. I like having little fire strips that are very skinny. And
what is a fire strip? Just tell me what a fire strip is before we go any further.
So using that 71% isopropyl alcohol, you technically can use 90% if that gets too hot. I recommend, honestly, if you're doing fire play in general, do it at a dungeon that has a fire kit and a fire blanket. and somebody experienced to monitor you, because it is a higher risk. I think that's true of most kinks, but there's some stuff like over the knee spanking and hair pulling. They're pretty self-explanatory, but this stuff I would do in an actual BDSM dungeon with someone who's done it before, and make sure they have a fire blanket. But with fire strips, you're going to take that wand with the cotton soaked in the 71% isopropyl alcohol, and you're actually going to drag a little bit of the wand with the alcohol on it on someone's skin to make a strip. So it's just going to look like a little line. I recommend starting with a very short line, maybe the length of your thumb. And I'm trying not to use inches, and it's so hard.
I'm loving it. I'm loving that you're slightly uncomfortable about the inches.
And you're going to put it, and then you're going to put your wand full of your alcohol cotton off to the side. You're going to extinguish it and completely put it away from where it's not going to be anything for a moment, and make sure that it's like, you're going to check that it's not too wet on their skin, that it's not like puddling or dripping. You just want it to be a little bit wet in a strip. You don't want it to make a puddle. You don't want it to make lots of extra little lines and sidebursts. And then you're going to relight your wand. And with one hand, you're going to tap to light that little patch on fire. And then with your other hand, you're going to follow it pretty quickly after like 1 second, maybe even less than 1 full second, and just put it out with your hand to make sure that there's no more alcohol behind it. Some people will let it burn out entirely. It does take a few seconds to do that instead of one. But I like having little dots of like those like 2-3 inch strips up at one on my sides, and have flame extinguish, flame extinguish, flame extinguish go up in like a swift little series, and then change sides and do the same thing. Or make like a little dot just like on a boob or on a butt or on like the sensitive part of the inner thigh, the sensitive parts that I want to have extra sensations on, and feel that. I have never topped for fire outside of doing like blowing. I don't really, it doesn't look fun to me to do to other people. I'm like, but I am the sensation slut. I want to feel all the things. I don't want to make you feel all the things. And I'm just like doing it without getting to be involved myself. Because again, I am a hedonist. Pleasure is what I'm in it for. And it just doesn't sound pleasant for me to do that to other people. Like, I did blowing a few times and I know how to do it pretty well. But beyond that, I just don't really have an interest. But receiving it is really nice.
That's totally fair, and I think we, you know, I top for the majority of things. I bottom for stuff so that I can get an idea of what it feels like to bottom, so I can be a better top. And then there's some stuff that I bottom for because I just adore the pain of certain kinks. But I try and bottom for everything that I top for, just so that I can experience it, because I think it gives you a better idea of how to give somebody else a good experience. But I don't think you have to be. I don't think you ever have to be one or the other. You can be both or one or whichever way, or in 6 years' time, you can change your mind. I think that's the great thing about kink.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. There's stuff that I started off bottoming for that now I only top for. There's stuff that I switch for like mad. There's stuff that I will go through a phase of like, I just want to try this for a little while and experiment. And the fun is experimenting and getting to try a bunch of different stuff over the course of a year, having like a handful of things that I've tried a few times, and just getting to have that experience of variety. It's always great. Fire cupping is the type of fire play that I do the most. I don't know how much you know about that.
I've never really seen it. I've spoken to a couple of people who've done cupping. I do blood cupping, but we do it with suction cups. So we don't use fire to create the suction. We've got a little a set from Shein. Really like there's not a lot of stores in Africa that you can go and buy fire cups from. We're trying to find a set here. It hasn't been as easy as it sounds. I think that I found a set, but I would have to sell a kidney to buy them. So I didn't buy that set. And I'm still looking for a set of fire cups, because it's something that I'd love to be able to give a try and experience, because I do the blood cupping. So I think it does all connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I prefer it to the suction cups. because it gets a certain amount of suction, but it doesn't draw blood, which I don't want to do. So I know blood cupping is its own thing. You can't do blood cupping with fire. But it just creates a suction by having the bit of a flash of fire go inside, and then you quickly put the cup down so that it creates suction. Sometimes it's not going to have enough and it'll feel really loose. So you always want to tug on it a little bit, make sure it's there, and then keep an eye on it for a minute and make sure that it's not changing color too quickly. It will absolutely change color, just like suction cups do, like regular manual ones. But you don't want it to start immediately turning dark purple. That means something is too tight. You definitely don't want to see closer to the edges of where the cup is start to change color, because that means there might be alcohol on the actual lip of the cup, which can cause real burns that can do long-term damage to the skin. And you want to not have that happen.
So interesting. It's so interesting what you say, because obviously we do it for blood cupping. So we do it over a big needle. We would we would definitely, like, the goal is blood. So you would make a cut and then put the cup over it. So it's interesting what you say about the skin turning color, because I have to be honest with you, it fills up with blood so quickly that I haven't actually noticed that. So you've just given me something to check out the next time we do cupping. Obviously, our aim is a bit different. It's not meant to be a sensual experience. But yeah, just super interesting to pick up new pointers that I can even relate back to the kinks that we do these days.
Some people will do very sadistic cupping, where they'll do no oil on the skin beforehand. It's very dry, and they'll actually drag it so it pulls.
Yeah, and
I think the Zoom just muted.
Oh, sorry, I didn't do anything. I can hear you now.
Gotcha. Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, there
Perfect.
you go. The sadistic cupping, I've seen photographs on FET of very sadistic cupping with the pulling. I've tried to pull the blood cups without oil underneath them, and I think you've got to have a certain talent and strength to get that right. The cups don't move so easily, and if you pull them too hard, they pop off. So I think that sadistic pulling takes more skill than I've had. We've attempted it, but we haven't been able to get it right at all. So unless you put oil on, I can't get the cups to move.
Yeah. And with oil, I've had therapeutic cupping more than anything else. I'm not a masochist. My tips didn't get that message, but the rest of me thought a masochist. But I got fire cupped at a chiropractor for the very first time, to pull a lot of the tension out of the muscles and get a bunch of the toxins that were stored up in there to come to the surface, so that it would start to move out of my body, because our endocrine systems are awesome at doing that. Or our lymphatic system, sorry. Endocrines do completely different stuff. To get that out. And it made getting my chiropractic adjustment easier. And then I also now go to an acupuncturist sometimes, and she'll do it there also to kind of warm up the skin, get the muscles more relaxed, based on how much the skin changes color in the marks, because she can kind of tell how bad it was in different areas. It does get really dark. It looks like an octopus, like a giant octopus wrapped around you when you do it, which I don't know if that happens with blood cupping. I don't really know a lot about blood cupping because blood's not really my thing.
I don't think we leave the cups on for long enough. I think the cups fill up pretty quickly. So they are definitely they are marks. So there is a red circle, but it dissipates quite quickly. It doesn't. We haven't made it stay. Our cups are quite small and they fill up with blood. And the point with the blood cupping for us is more to get the blood so we can play with it. So that would be the aim. Yeah. So, but I've now got a whole lot of pointers that I've written down while listening to you talk about cupping that I'm definitely going to pay more attention to, because I think a lot of the things you're saying I haven't really. I'm a bit fixated on the fact that we were getting blood, and I need to pay attention to the whole experience a little bit more. It's
therapeutically, they've just always used like fractionated coconut oil. So I copy what the professionals do. I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a picture of the bottle you just used and I'm going to go online and buy the exact same one. Which, by the way, you can buy fire cupping kits online. That's where my partner.
The online thing in my country is really difficult with postage. It's great. You can order the stuff, but we have this amazing harbor where everything just goes to die. And then it sits there for 8 or 9 months, and then you've got to bribe a customs official to get it out if they release the container. If they don't, sometimes everybody just goes on strike and then they don't release any containers for 8 or 9 months. And then by the time they release the containers are empty. So it's one of these, it's like a really African it's not a given that if you buy something it'll arrive. So also our postage is super frigging expensive to use a courier. So you're looking at like 8 or 9 times, or like 200% of the price of the product we will pay for in postage.
Wow.
So I think, I'll give you an idea. A box of needles is about $49. The postage to get the box of needles here was $175.
Fuck.
Yeah, and I ordered the needles 9 months ago, and they still haven't arrived. So, just to give you, so from that side, it's super cool. I can go online and I can shop at Amazon as much as I like. Whether or not I get my product depends on the time of year, who's looking for a Christmas bonus, kind of who wants a 5-finger discount, who is shopping for themselves, what else is going on in the country. So it's unfortunately just not a given, and it's really difficult. So the best way to do it is to find someone who is coming back, and who can bring the product back for you when they come into the country.
Yeah, I never would have thought about that. There's an Amazon warehouse on my street.
Yeah, they promise
sometimes they deliver 2 hours after I order.
Yeah, no, 2 weeks after we order from a local supplier. No, that's not true. 3 days is normal with a local supplier, but then you paying for a personal courier. Our South African postal service is literally shut down, it's non-existent anymore. And I think there's 5 or 6 left in my town, and I don't think anybody goes into them anymore. So we use private couriers for most things. And even then, it's just not guaranteed. So,
yeah. That's a perspective. I'm grateful that we've got a different system. I would have a huge cultural adjustment.
So the next time you order something and the guy arrives at your door, you've got to feel gratitude. Okay, you have
Absolutely.
to. For me, you've got to know that some of us just don't get this experience. That's look. Some of the private companies here use private couriers, and the private couriers are generally okay. They're still only 80% okay, because stuff gets lost, or it doesn't arrive how it was sent, or stuff goes missing in the situation. So it's not. We call it African law. It's dubious. And we just live with that. We're just grateful for the stuff that does arrive in the box when it comes, and if something does arrive quickly, we're super grateful. Yeah. Sheen's a bit better, but also it really depends on what's happening in our harbors, what's happening in our country. Is everyone going to work this week? Are we going to have a mass strike? Are they going to close the harbor down for 6 months? Yeah, it's not a super guarantee. So I'm smiling because it's a nightmare, but we're getting there. Apparently, Amazon is coming to our country, and the Amazon head office is meant to be 10 Ks from where I live now. So that is super exciting, and I'm living for that moment. I really am. So maybe this will change in the next year. But up until this point, we've got something called Take-A-Lot, but they only deal with our local South African service providers and to sell their product.
Yeah. Well, I hope that comes soon. I wonder if you have any traditional Chinese medical practitioners. They probably do fire cupping.
So I actually booked with a woman. She's seeing me in 3 weeks' time. I actually booked with her. She does the guy next door does my acupuncture, and my sports therapy. So I actually booked with her because I thought the first time to go to a Chinese medical practitioner would probably be the best bet for fire cupping, because we just don't have it in our community. Nobody does it. So I thought that if we like totally non-kinky, just go for the experience, see what it's like, see how I enjoy it, and go to somebody who is, I think she's about 67 in the shade, and she looks like she's done it a couple of times. So I thought that she looked really, when I spoke to her about it, she sounded like really jacked and she knew her stuff. And she really looked like it wasn't her first rodeo, which made me feel quite comfortable. And I think with a fire, that's probably the way to go, is find someone with massive experience and not the newbie.
She sounds perfect.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, but I could only get an appointment in 3 weeks' time. But I have definitely booked with someone who's more experienced than any of our kinksters in our community.
Yeah, it's a very different experience. I have had to kind of talk to the people who do fire cupping on me at the local dungeon to be like, okay, I brought my own oil, like I will like run like my own hand down like the edge of my shoulder to make sure if the oil's like, be like, so you spread the oil evenly, like let me make sure it's not like wet. You just want your skin a little moist. And they'll even do like, they'll get scared to start doing like fire massage with cupping, because fire cupping massage is great. And they'll start like in between your shoulder blades and go up and get close to the base of your neck and then drag down your shoulder over towards like between your neck and your shoulder joint, and just kind of do that over and over. And it'll be a quick little flash to get the initial suction and suck and spread. And it's weird because instead of a massage that pushes in on your muscles, it's a massage that is pulling out on your muscles with the suction. And it feels really great. And then my acupuncturist will do it, and she will, after my skin is warmed up, she gets to do it, she'll use her hands to feel out where there's still any sort of tension and place the fire cups on those little spots. She sets a timer for between 8 and 15 minutes, depending on how much she feels like I need. Because she does that, and because people in the kink community seem to say between 5 and 15 minutes, some even say 5 to 12, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just going to do 10 minutes. That's just going to be my go-to. That seems like a safe amount of time that we can all agree on. And I'd rather go closer to like the lower end or the middle versus what higher is. I'll let my acupuncturist do it as long as she wants, because she's like 50 years old. She's been doing this since she was 20. She's very, very good at it. And I go there for the therapeutic side of things.
And she's,
but I try and get that therapeutic sensual. Yeah. Even when I'm in a kink environment, I'm like, can you make it like, we're going to go a little slower, do like the sensual therapeutic side? Because the sadistic part, again, I am not a masochist, so I don't want to do that part.
I think the sadistic side, the pictures that I've seen, those backs were blue afterwards. And the pictures that I'm thinking of come from a particularly sadistic top. So I would imagine most of her stuff is extreme. But I think that they can do quite a bit of damage.
It's going to be like red to purple range. It can get a bluish purple, but that's like really intense. It should be closer to the redder side of a purple.
Okay, this was seriously blue. It went brown and then yellow, so it was definitely bruised. But it was. I mean, I'm really glad that people got the experience that they wanted to get out of it. It was just something that I was like, wow, it's the last thing I imagined to be able to do with cups. So, but I think you can calibrate any kink to the extreme if you really want to do that, which is why this community is so fun, because you get to be able to decide what calibration you want and how you want to mix it up. So I think that that's super cool. But yeah, hats off to those bottoms, because that looked intense.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful that we live in a time where we have like FetLife and we have online databases to look up where we can go that have classes, that have BDSM practices. You can like see a little tour of what the dungeons look like, and you can kind of know and talk to the people who are on staff there and send them messages or give them a phone call. And it takes less than an hour to find a place to go and learn the stuff and try it and know for a fact that you're dealing with someone who's done it before, and you're going to be around like dungeon monitors, and they're going to have the safety precautions in place that need to be there when we do the really high risk stuff.
Yeah, and I think like not so much the cigar talk, but all the fire talk that we are chatting about tonight comes with its own safety risks, and there is an enormous amount of prep that goes into doing things like this. And there's a prep from the venue side, there's prep from the bottom side, there's prep from the top side, and then there's prep in the room and personal responsibility for everybody in the room that's involved in the kink. So we're talking about it very lightly and we laughing about some stuff, but I think that we can't underestimate how much prep goes into fire play and how much safety is necessary to make sure that everybody has a great time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I almost take it for granted because I've been doing it for so long. Like I very recently, like Saturday, today's Monday, like I just had someone take a bunch of chain from the freezer and like shove it up my cunt and put wax on the outside while I was blindfolded. Not something that I'm like, hey, that's just a cool, fun thing I did, because it's the weekend. And I wanted to know what it would feel like to have that juxtaposition of sensations. By the way, it was really awesome and intense in a really fun way. And pulling it out was even more fun. But I just wanted to know what that was like. And I'm like, I wouldn't have done it when I was 18. Even though I was like pretty stupid and took a lot of risks. I would have been very scared to do that. But now I'm just like, it'll warm up. It'll happen.
It'll warm up. And how was it? What was the feeling initially?
It was so intense because it was freezing cold. I don't know if you've ever played with ice. But when metal freezes. I've
got a metal flogger that I use in between impact play. I don't actually hit with it. I just slide it over the warm bums because it's just a way. And I have my favorite implement for impact is a cleaver. The cleavers have all been blunted, but I have a whole set of cleavers named after women. So, and then I freeze some of them so that they are super, super cold because that very cold steel, so the spank and then the very cold steel. So I do that. That's sort of some of the temperature play I do with sort of frozen items. But I haven't tried the chain thing. I've heard a couple of the Americans mention chain fisting, and now you mentioned tonight putting a chain in your cunt. Like this is not something I've even considered. You're putting a lot of ideas in my head.
It was just like a foot-long thing of chain, and I wanted to know what it would feel like. I've never shoved a chain up there, and I do ice cubes all the time. So with ice cubes, and then like wax on the outside, the ice cubes just kind of melt and make the ice and make the wax come down to cold, and it just gets hard and it falls off. So I'm like, well, that's no fun. But with the chain stayed in, and the wax stayed pretty warm for a while. And hardened, and then got to take, scratch it off when it got hard, and then put a new coat of wax on so it's even more sensitive and the temperature sensation is stronger. Until I don't really remember how we ended. I was in like a really happy headspace. So the details got fuzzy. That happens for me. But I remember by the end, I was just like, that was so awesome. I want to do it again.
I love that. It's so cool to hear everybody's adventures and how much fun they've had with them. And I love that you're brave and experimenting, and that you're experimenting safely, and that you are, you're doing things that are thinking outside the box for pleasure. I just think that's amazing. So I love that journey. It really sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely purchased a dining room table that was sealed wood, so that me and my friends could take turns laying naked on it with candles all over us to be a living candelabra at dinner parties. We've done that several times. There are multiple photographs.
That's fantastic. That's another great way to bring fire into your living room.
I love fire. Like fire and wax are two of my favorite things in the world. And smoke and just everything to do with heat. Also, I live in Florida. I chose to live in a hot place.
My favorite thing with wax is to have my feet waxed. My feet absolutely drenched in wax. I love the feeling. My play partner and I, she's also big into wax. We'll wax each other's feet on a Saturday afternoon when we've got nothing better to do. And it's so great because the temperature is hot, so it's quite warm on your feet. So it's all about keeping your feet super still so that it hardens nicely. And then we just do a giant wax pour over our feet.
I always pay extra when I go to like a spa to get a massage or a pedicure to get the wax on my feet. It's so good. I love it. I need to get one of the wax baths for my house.
Yeah, otherwise just heat it up. We heat it up in a normal leg wax container. You can set the temperature on it, and then we just pour it over each other's feet. And then so we must pour close on 1 kilogram on each other's feet and make it different colors and have lots of giggles and it's like the girls' afternoon.
I love that.
But yeah, I've really loved chatting to you about cigars. I have a plan for tomorrow, so I'll definitely pop a pick up on Rain of Fire of my first cigar experience because I'm super excited about this. But just love how authentic you were, and thank you for sharing your time with us and the listeners tonight about all of these amazing things that you can do to bring fire into your living room. Because you gave me some great ideas. And I love that you are getting to explore your pleasure like this and that you're happy to share it with us. And we got a little bit of a window into your world in Florida. Super jealous that you have that world in Florida. That sounds so first world. But yeah, we really appreciate your time and for you sharing so much with us.
Fantastic. Well, it was a pleasure to be here. I love getting to talk about this kind of stuff. So, like I said, it's the one thing I do multiple times a week is play with fire and cigars.
Love that, Vanessa. Thank you so much. And to all my listeners, if you don't have a ticket for Rain of Fire, I don't know what you're doing with your lives. You need to get one. We are I'm going to release our schedule tomorrow, which is really, really exciting. So I'm going to drop this podcast and then keep an eye out because the schedule's coming. And then after the schedule's out, the early bird sale ends. So if you don't have your ticket, get your ticket. If you need help getting a ticket, we have some scholarships available. So please reach out to the Rain of Fire team. Education should be for everybody, no matter where you are and no matter what you earn. So whatever you can afford, we're happy to help you. And just stay lit. And I hope your world is kept ablaze, and lots of love and kitten kisses from my dungeon in Cape Town to yours wherever you are.